In the dusty village of Kamwaza, where baobab trees lined the hills and gossip flowed faster than the river after rain, there lived a man named Janya. Janya was the village drunkard. He, kind everyone knew by name, smell, and the sound of his mismatched sandals dragging across the dust. His days were spent lounging beneath the old mango tree near the market square, a gourd of fermented brew always in hand, and his beard growing wild, like it had secrets of its own. He spoke in riddles, laughed at things no one understood, and insisted he once debated a hyena and won. He was often muttering wild tales to chickens or giving passionate speeches to termites. Children imitated his stagger for fun, women clicked their tongues when he passed, men dismissed him, and the elders simply shook their heads, saying, "Ah, that one. He was not always like this." But while the village saw a joke, a nuisance, or a forgotten soul, Janya, in his quiet, drunken way, saw everything. "Even his shadow is tipsy," they would say. But what they didn't know was that Janya noticed everything. King Mutebi was a respected ruler in Kamwaza. He was wise in council, fierce in battle, and generous during the yam festival. But he had one weakness: Sina, the wife of his most loyal guard, Captain Mamba. Their affair was hidden behind carefully timed visits, secret paths through the sugarcane fields, and hushed whispers after midnight. But one moonless night, as fate would have it, Janya was there. He hadn't meant to be. He had chased a goat he believed owed him money. It didn't, and wandered too far. He tripped in the sugarcane field and lay flat on his back, watching stars dance in the sky. That's when he heard it: laughter, soft voices, the rustling of clothes. Peering through the leaves, he saw them, the king and Sina, tangled in embrace under the moonlight. Janya blinked. I knew that goat was taking me somewhere important," he whispered. The next day, during the village's weekly gathering, Janya stumbled into the square, holding his usual drinking gourd, eyes rel, breath rich with old brew. He staggered forward with the wobble of a man who had fought gravity all his life and usually lost, but today, Janya had a mission. With the crowd murmuring and the midday sun baking the village square, he grabbed the edge of the old cooking rock near the market well, the same one used for roasting cassava during festivals, and pulled himself up like a prophet ascending his mountain. His gourd sloshed dangerously in one hand, his robe slipping off one shoulder, and his beard bristling like a storm cloud. He swayed slightly, paused to regain his balance, then stretched both arms out like he was about to part the Red Sea. "Gather round, you keepers of chickens and whisperers of gossip," he bellowed, voice hoarse but sharp. "For today it is I, Janya the Ignored, who brings truth hotter than this rock I stand on." The villagers stopped what they were doing. Some laughed, others rolled their eyes. A few inched closer, unsure whether they were about to hear drunken rambling or prophecy, and Janya, smiling like a man who knew secrets buried deeper than any well, prepared to speak the words that would shake the village to its roots. "Let me tell you about the king's favorite harvest," Janya slurred, swaying slightly on the cooking rock as villagers began to chuckle. "It's not yam, no, not the fat ones from Mamba's farm, not the sweet ones from the Queen's garden." He paused, lifted his gourd dramatically, and leaned forward like a preacher delivering a holy truth. "No, my friends. The king's finest harvest wears perfume, walks on two legs, and sleeps in Mamba's house." The laughter stilled. Janya's voice dropped into a mock whisper, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's not yam the king visits at night. It's Mamba's wife, and I saw it with these two dusty eyes." Gasps rippled through the crowd, chickens scattered, a gourd dropped and cracked somewhere. Janya took a proud sip and added with a wink, "And they say the drunkard speaks nonsense." The villagers burst into laughter. "Janya, stop drinking rainwater," they joked. Someone threw him a piece of roasted cassava. Others ignored him. But then, Captain Mamba froze, and the king, who had just arrived on horseback in full royal regalia, his robe sweeping the earth and his guards flanking him like shadows, went pale. Not the pale of a man caught in the sun, but the pale of a secret yanked into daylight. His jaw stiffened, his eyes narrowed, and his feet froze beside the village well, as if the ground had betrayed him. For a breathless moment, even the flies held still. The villagers turned slowly, one by one, their eyes shifting from Janya the madman to King Witebi the mighty. And then Janya laughed, not a drunk's laugh, but a deep, knowing cackle that echoed against the mud walls of Kamwaza like a drum of war. "Ah!" he roared, pointing straight at the trembling king. "So now the lion is afraid of the drunken goat, eh?" Gasps spread through the crowd like fire in dry grass. Even the chief's advisor dropped his staff. Captain Mamba, whose wife had suddenly gone very quiet in recent moons, stared at the king with the hollow eyes of a man connecting every dot in his soul. "So tell me, O mighty king," Janya continued, wobbling slightly but standing tall, "will you deny what the termites already know? Will you say the shadows lied? Or was it the wind that carried your footsteps to another man's house?" The king opened his mouth and closed it again, and Janya, glowing with wild triumph, took one final sip from his gourd and whispered just loud enough for all to hear. "When the drunk speaks in riddles, perhaps it's because the truth burns too hot to say plainly." Over the next few days, strange things began happening. The king cancelled his visits to the sugarcane fields. Sina stopped smiling. Mamba walked around like a man carrying a rock in his chest. And slowly, the whispers began. By the end of the week, the elders met in secret. The queen confronted the king. Mamba challenged him in council. The truth had slipped out, and it came from the lips they all ignored. The king admitted to the affair. He offered public apology and stepped back from the throne for a season of atonement. Sina returned to her mother's village in shame. Mamba took time in the hills to find peace. And Janya? Janya was offered clean clothes and a seat at the elders' bench, but he declined. What would the village do if the drunk became sober? Janya said with a crooked grin, his eyes twinkling beneath heavy lids. He leaned back on his favourite rock, the one worn smooth from years of speeches no one listened to, and took a long, thoughtful sip from his gourd. Then he wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and continued, his voice softer now. "If I start walking straight and talking sense, who will confuse the chickens and entertain the goats? Who will the termites still need report to? Who will dance with the shadows and laugh when there's no one else to laugh?" The elders chuckled, unsure whether he was joking or prophesying. He pointed a slow, wobbly finger toward the old anthill near the council hut. "And besides, the termites still need someone to report to. They've been digging tunnels without permit. Who else is going to inspect their work, eh?" Laughter erupted, even from the chief. But Janya's eyes, hidden behind his usual haze, turned serious for just a moment. "Don't be too quick to sweep aside the madman in the corner," he murmured. "Sometimes he's just a man who's seen too much," and decided to laugh instead of scream. And with that, he tipped his gourd, took one last swig, and began humming a song only he remembered, as the sun dipped low over Kamwaza, and now, when Janya spoke, people listened. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more stories.